James, go ahead and give them a little background story about you. You could say whatever you want.
Okay, I'm going to tell them something about you. Uh, so, Pizza Mike, um, because I'm probably going to refer to you as Pizza Mike during this. At some point, everyone's going to think, "What's Pizza Mike?" So, we'll get to that in a second. I'm Jam to my friends, James to anyone that I'm not really friends with. I was in the British Army, 13 years. Because if it isn't double figures, it doesn't count. And then when I got out, I was a defense contractor. I work in HR now, but in project and product management for HR software. So a bit of a transition. But um, between all that, while I'm a defense contractor, me and a guy that I was in an apartment share with went for a few too many beers. And on the way back, I was utterly shit faced. Um, got off the train and don't remember much else. But a couple of days later, I'm walking around the base and this random bloke, he's like, "Hey man." I'm like, "Oh, you must be American." And he's Mike here. It's like, "Do you remember me?" I'm like, "Not a fucking clue, mate. I know who you are." I don't know if it's the next day actually, because I seem to remember just being still being cloudy and hungover. Um, but I then started to
Probably.
remember. I then started to have a cup of tea. Cheers.
Cheers. Just
Um,
a nice little
like it. Um, so I started to remember that I'd gotten off the train and a gaggle of Yanks, some US soldiers walking past me. One of them says hi, so I'm like, "All right, how you doing?" Um, and then get into the whole, "Oh my God, you're British." Like, yeah, um, glad you've noticed. And then got invited for a few beers in the train station, um, pizza shop bar thing. And I just ended up giving your mate Megan shit the entire night. So it just
yeah.
like made his life miserable for about 2 hours while continuing to smash the beers. And then it was like the whole pizza thing. So it was just
Yeah.
Pizza Mike, and yeah. So there it is. Um,
Yeah.
something
Do you
about
remember
me.
the third person that was there?
I remember he just looked really uncomfortable the entire time, but I think um,
Yeah.
that the uh,
So I got a video. It's somewhere dug deep in my phone, but uh, there's a video of that night when we all met, and his name was TJ, and he was sitting in the side chair up against the wall, and he was just like leaning against it.
yeah,
And we had all drank a lot that night, and he wanted to go home, and there all of us are still ordering beers. And for those of you guys that don't know, uh, at the train station that we would get off at, the the train station had a little pizza place called Pizza House, and they served beer there, and it would
oh,
go on for
sorry,
hours.
their chicken sandwich. Did you
Yeah,
ever have? Yeah, yeah.
they had a
Ah,
Euro platter that I would order. It was pretty good.
uh-huh. Ah, man, that yeah. I I'm kind of tempted to drive to I mean, I'm going to drive now. Drive to Illisheim to go and get one of their chicken sandwiches because that was life-changingly good. I felt the Lord's presence. You know what I'm saying? That was a good time. But
Yeah.
yeah, Illisheim, man, that was glad that I don't have to go back there. To be honest, not that
It's
it
all right.
wasn't
We'll give you a new
lovely.
place to come to. It's a local place near me.
Oh yeah,
But
there's
so
mm,
so let's ask our first question. So you bought a house out in the UK, right?
I did,
Um,
yeah.
what was that process like? For the Americans out there, it might be similar, but it might be different. What was that process like going to getting your first property? Did you talk to a real estate agent? Did you look online on a website and you just kind of saw it? Were you driving by one day and saw a for sale sign? How was that for you?
So it's a bit of a wild story. Um, Basically, so I knew I wanted to buy a house, but I was my mid-20s. I had no money. Like I drinking, as soldiers in their early to mid-20s do. Um, just like I had no money, like living on fucking ramen and tap water towards the end of the month. But I knew I wanted to buy a house, and I knew that uh, the British Army had just renewed, or they'd assessed their We've got a forces help to buy scheme, so the amount of money the soldiers can borrow to be able to buy their own house. They just changed a lot of the rules to make it better. So I qualified for it. So I borrowed. So I had to go and find the house, but I knew that this scheme was available. Um, so I went home, had a look around, and went to what we call an estate agent, which you will call a realtor. And I was like, "Yo, I want to buy a house." And they said, "Okay, this is a pet food store." I'm joking.
I
Anyway,
was
so
like,
the estate agent's like, "All right, what kind of place you're looking for?" So I was like, "As long as it isn't a bungalow, which is like a single story, I don't know if you call them bungalows in the US.
yeah, so
I don't,
residential house for the Americans.
yeah, okay. So I didn't want a bungalow, and I didn't want to be in. There's a couple of towns or places I didn't want to be in. So they said, okay, here's a bunch of like flyers to go and see um, these houses. So I got given like four or five of them. I didn't like any of them, and then I got a call later that day, um, and it was the estate agent saying, "Look, I know you don't want to be in this town or in a bungalow, but there's a bungalow in this town. Do you want to go look at it?" I was like, "All right, okay." So went and looked at it, and the small town that my house is in, it's called Belgrano. It's on the North Wales coast, and it doesn't sound very Welsh. So you've got Abergele nearby, you've got Rhyl, you've got Prestatyn, you've got these very Welsh sounding names, and then you've got Belgrano, which is like, isn't that Spanish or something? Um, and it turns out some random guy went to Argentina. There's a place called Belgrano there, and he apparently was so impressed with it, he built a tiny settlement on the North Wales coast and called it Belgrano. And it's expanded a little bit, but there are three or four rows of houses or bungalows that are designed to look like Spanish villas, and it's all just a bit weird. And I thought it was really cool. Went in there, huge living room, and I walked in there, and my first thought was, house parties in here are going to be fucking incredible. Um, and they were. So I found the house. Next day, I went to my local Army Reserves centre, but only because that was closer than a military base. Um, Thankfully, someone was in there. I borrowed one of their computers, logged into my Army self-service thing account, and applied for it online there. And then just got to put the details in of the property and um, like how much you need to borrow for the deposit. Um, and like a week later, it was approved, and then I went to the estate agent. I think said, "I noticed it's all done." I can't remember this bit. I don't know if I went to the estate agent. I must have gone to the estate agent and said, I want to buy this, and went to a solicitor or a lawyer, um, and they did all of obviously the contracts and legal paperwork, and then like 2 weeks later, I get a call from my sister, and she's like, "Oh, I've got the keys." No, what do you mean you've got the keys? She goes, I've got your house keys. Like it's all gone through. Um, so the process for me was painless. I had no issues. My deposit was 10% of the mortgage, and I bought it in 2020, no, 2015, for £125,000. So 10% deposit, and my solicitor fees were, I think it was like £1,100. So to put a deposit down on a house and pay all the legal fees, um, I paid almost £14,000. Um,
Yeah.
and I had to borrow the money for this solicitor from my girlfriend at the time because I had no money.
Oh, really?
Uh,
So you
yeah,
borrowed for the whole thing or just like the down
yeah.
payment?
I borrowed for the down payment from the
Okay.
army, and it was an interest-free loan.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So it comes, so whatever you need to repay comes out of your salary every month. So
Oh,
you
yeah,
don't,
yeah,
so you don't even notice. I'm just like, all right, let me borrow this money, and you can take it back from me using the salary
yeah,
you're paying me. Like, okay, and interest free.
yeah,
And I knew that I was gonna get to my 8 year point. Wrong, my 12 year point. Yeah, and I was planning to consider whether consider whether I wanted to leave or not at my 12 year point because the full contract is 22 years and it's my halfway point. Am I going to commit or am I going to sort of slope off?
hmm
So I knew that I was going to get, I think it's £12,500 tax free payment when you leave at your 12 year point. And so I'd bought at my 8 year point, I think. And then when it came to my 12 year point, I knew I had all this money come in. So I knew that I worked out half of that would go on to what was outstanding from the deposit. And I also had like 6, 7 grand in my pocket just to fucking whatever.
right,
Um, so yeah, it was a really painless process. Didn't pay much at all. In terms of like needing or like to actually buy the house. Like a 90% mortgage, and yeah, so the mortgage was more than affordable. I was a single corporal at the time. I think the equivalent in the U.S. Army is sergeant. Um,
hmm
so yeah, so I'm a single corporal at the time. Like mortgage was fine. But yeah, a really painless process, thankfully, and I know it can be really difficult for some people as well. Like like might fall through,
right,
or just trying to get um, someone to like buy the property can be tricky. But the one that I bought it went on the market like a month earlier, so it had been on the market for a month, and like 3, 4 weeks later, I owned it. Um, it was like, people are going to be like, "This cunt, how dare you have it so easy?" And I know,
right.
but
Now that you're out, and you're civilian again, do you still get access to some of those military programs to be able
see
to get a house
this.
like that again?
So this is it with the Americans and Brits post service. We're very different, um, and I think it's a cultural thing in that sure soldiers could get a little bit more assistance, and I say that because I've been fortunate to um, do my, it's not a degree, but my like undergraduate diploma in HR management, and I bought a house while I was in. Um, I did all of that while I was still in. So when I got out, I've been all right. Um, and post service people tend to struggle, but there's a lot of sort of mental health behind that. So I'm not just going to outright call them lazy or anything, but it's there are a lot of genuine post service issues that people have. But there's nothing stopping people buying a house when they're in. Um, but we don't get the whole post service support or loans. I wouldn't even call it support, like the loans, that kind of thing. Um, yeah, we don't really have that, but we have these schemes and things while you're still serving. So, um, yeah,
So limited time, take advantage while you can,
and
if that if
and this is it.
yeah.
Like how many times did you hear someone in the army say, "I'm bored"?
Yeah.
It's like do something, like buy a
Hmm.
house. Like the army's got stuff. Just because the four or five uh, other like privates that you hang around with are too chicken shit to do it, and you're the only one thinking about it, just fucking do it. Uh,
Yeah.
and then maybe that will, you know, get those other guys to think, Knobhead's bought a house, I might do the same. And,
Hmm.
and then the more people do it, the more people realize that they can just fucking buy a house, especially with like military loans and stuff. For the average
Right.
person, it's significantly more difficult. But when you're in uh, what is a very privileged position in terms of opportunity, because once it's fucking gone, it's gone. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Now, now in the UK, can you go and try to purchase a house and then ask the seller to pay your closing costs?
I have no idea, to be honest.
Now I know
Uh,
the down payment is kind of like a requirement on your end, so you would have to figure out where that money comes from, whether that's your savings or like how you borrowed temporarily. But like in America, for example, you can go and buy a home, say the home is 250,000, and then they're like, hey, you have um, let's say $7,000 for closing costs, and then you could say, oh, can you ask the seller to pay for that? And most of the time there'll be some back and forth, but usually if there's like some minor things that's wrong with the home, say there's like a couple rooms need to be repainted, maybe there's some scuffs and scratches other places, then you'd be like, hey, instead of trying to give me a credit and everything like that, just pay for my closing costs. And there's lots of little ways to move the money around so you don't have to
yeah.
pay for it.
So if I don't know in terms of closing costs. I don't know. I don't want to say that we don't have them because I might just not know that we actually have them. Um, but if I was buying a house, and this is something in hindsight I should have thought about more because I saw the asking price and I just was like, yeah, okay. But because I knew that I was borrowing the money interest free, like, and I knew that the army was just gonna just pay off its own loan, it didn't bother
Yeah.
me. Um, but I probably could have gotten money off that and said to them, like, I don't want to pay 125, I'll pay 115 because it needs a new kitchen and a new bathroom
Yeah.
and so we would put a lower offer in knowing that the money we've saved on that house price then because we're gonna need to put money into the house after we've bought it. So I don't know if that's the same thing, but yeah, we'd just put a lower offer in, knowing that we would have to do work to the property. So
Yeah. Now, what about like property taxes and like appraisals? Do you guys do an appraisal before you purchase the property? And then are the property taxes part of your mortgage, or is that completely separate?
so yeah, you can have two. There are like two types of inspection, um, and they're independent. They're independent from the mortgage company, I think. Um, and you can pay for, they check the roof, they check the plumbing, they check the electrics, they check, everything. You can either pay for that one,
Mhm.
or you can pay for the shit one, where they turn up and just make sure there's actually a house there, and then go, yeah, I'll do. Um,
Yeah,
Not knowing they've probably got the wrong fucking address or something. Um,
right.
so yeah, you can pay for like an upfront inspection. Obviously, you go and look at the house like two, three times before you buy it. Um, yeah. So I don't know if we just sort of. I think we the Brits, we're very low bullshit. Um, well, like that's kind of how I describe it
Um,
anyway. Like I know Germany, if you really enjoy bureaucracy and filling out 1,000 forms and going to different appointments just to achieve one thing, come
mhm.
to Germany. If you if you want to spend way too much doing like getting your car repaired, come to Germany. Um, and then I think the US isn't quite like that, but there seems to be a lot more formality. And given like when I bought a house, like it just I was surprised as a man child at the age of 26, I was allowed to just go and buy a house like that. Um, so yeah, it
Mhm.
seemed there didn't seem to be much in terms of bullshit. I just signed a contract after applying for a loan,
Yeah,
after seeing a house once, and went, I'll buy that because fuck it.
yeah.
Um,
That's kind of how I got my first house. Um, I was looking all around, and me and my wife, we were both looking at all these different websites, and we were like, man, we just can't really like. We found some that we liked, but none of them was really like, oh, I wish we could really see this one. We're really interested. None of them were really like that at the time. So we were kind of looking, and I contacted this real estate agent on one of the houses, and he told me that it was already sold, that he just forgot to take it down. And so I was like, okay. And my wife was looking and she goes, "Hey, see this one right here?" I'm like, it doesn't say that it's supposed to be released till tomorrow. So they had the listing there, but you couldn't see any details about it until tomorrow. That's when it was coming out. And so she goes, "Well, they put the pictures up, but there's just no information about it." And we were both like, "Man, that house looks really nice actually. We like it." And that it was finally one of the houses that we were like, "Man, we hope we can actually see this one." And I contacted that real estate agent and he was like, "Let me see what I can do." Sure enough, he goes 8 o'clock in the morning at this address. And we were like, "All right, let's go." And as soon as I started walking around and I was looking at everything, I'm like, "How much land is right here?" And he goes, "About a half acre." I'm like, "You know what?" I'm
That'll
like,
do.
I'm like, "Go ahead and submit the offer." And at the time it was 245,000
Uh,
and it was what they were asking for, and I felt that it was just a fair price. Like I didn't even bother trying to lower it or anything. It was just one of those right time, right opportunity in my eyes.
yeah,
But anyway, I submitted it, and sure enough, that very next day he calls me up and goes, "Hey, they uh they offered or they accepted your offer." I was like, No, no shit. Okay. All right. Well, let's let's get a hold of the bank.
And
Like I
it's
had
like,
already done all the stuff beforehand, so I knew I was
yeah,
gonna be good for the loan. Yeah.
and that's kind of like what happened with me. Like I picked out a bunch of like brochures for houses that I liked the look of, and when I went to go and see them, they, you know, just wasn't, I wasn't really that interested. And then it was the one that I didn't want. They were like, just go and have a look. I was like, all right. I went up there. I was like, this place is amazing. Uh, and it's yeah, like it's got a fully enclosed back garden, a detached garage, like a single like a single carport garage,
Hmm.
3 bedrooms, huge living room. Like the it's like a huge living room with rooms kind of attached to it. It's like just the center of the house, this huge living room. Um, and yeah, it's just like some of the house parties we had in there were intense. Uh, but yeah, and like fully enclosed back garden. I've got a little front garden with a cherry blossom in there. So like when I'm showing my sensitive side here, when the cherry blossoms fall off the tree, like my front garden's just like this little pink blanket, which is really nice. And
Yeah.
it just like the whole street, like just they are elderly people for the most part. So they put a lot of like flowers out, and then these Spanish style villas. There's a lot of like colourful flowers in the spring. Um, it's a bit surreal. It's weird, but that's kind of why I loved about it. It was a bit unusual. Um, yeah, and so it was just like loved it. Put the offer in, and it all sort of happened really quickly. So yeah,
Yeah. So what's your plans with it now? You gonna I know we've talked off camera, but
yeah,
so what's
yeah.
your plans with it now?
I've had it for 10 years, and as I'm in Germany, so I'm not too far from where you are, in the south, and my house is on the North Wales coast. I've got a tenant in there, so I've got someone living in there paying rent, um, and I just don't want to be an overseas landlord. So I've just had some work done to it, like the outside of the house has been done. I had the rendering done, and the garage, and them both painted. Uh, Paved parking spot has been dug up and reset. So I had a bunch of shit done to it. Um, so just gonna look at selling it in as soon as possible, really. Um, just because like that'll free up a bunch of cash, and I can, I don't know, go on holiday without thinking about whether if I spend, like a grand 1,500 on flights, the moment I land in my dream destination, the estate agent's going to call, by the way, the roof has caved in. Like, brilliant.
Yeah.
So I'm selling it. That's the plan. And then I'm going to go snowboarding in Japan because, you know, if someone calls me while I'm at my dream destination and says the roof has caved in, I'm like, that's not my house. I can um, just kind of not have to worry about it. So yeah, after 10 years is enough. So I think we are so in Germany. Traditionally, like an entire family will live in a like 3-story house, so ground floor, then first floor, then second floor. You have the grandparents on the ground floor in their own. Um, they turn their houses into like apartments. Like there's like the grandparents, then the parents, and then the children. and then grandparents die, and everyone moves down the floor. The kids have kids. All of a sudden, the parents are the grandparents, and then the people inherit the family house. And
Mhm.
Germany is insanely low on new build property. So there is a massive housing shortage in Germany. Um, and yeah, so houses here are insanely expensive, but um,
Oh yeah.
the
I mean,
average
even
German,
looking for places to rent here, I was like, man, this is wild. And then they
yeah,
wanted like a 90-day grace period. So like I was looking at a property, but it's not available for 2 more months.
uh,
And yeah, I was running into a lot of that over here.
it's crazy. But yeah, it's like they
Yeah.
don't buy houses the way we do. Whereas
Yeah.
Brits and Americans are the same in that you'll like buy your first home and you've got like a starter home, and then 5 to 10 years later sell it, use the compound interest and the rate from inflation, take that money, buy an even nicer place, and then 5 to 10 years time sell it, and then buy your dream home. You know,
Right.
but that concept is
Is that
alien.
something I know you want to go to Japan and all that stuff, but that'll be say a month of fun time and everything. Are you going to be using some of that money to go get another property or buy a rental or anything like that?
Um,
Or
so I wouldn't buy a house in Germany because nobody can buy a house in Germany. Um, like my house in Germany, it's it is close to it's around the £200,000 mark now, but in Germany you're looking at like double that at least. Say
yeah.
450,000 at least for that house. Um, so even thinking about buying a house in Germany is stupid. So
Yeah.
uh, I've got a friend that lives out in Canada, so we've toyed with the idea of me buying something out there and then her um, moving into it and then eventually going halves on the deposit and then looking at like down the line figure out I get bought out or we sell it and work out percentages on the profit and split it that way.
Hmm.
Because renting in Canada is crazy as well, or buying a house, sorry, as well. It's insane. Um, so just kind of that seems
Would you
to make
be
sense.
would you be west would you be west of in Canada or would you be east? Like where
Uh,
geographically are you
so
interested in?
Kenny is over in Kelowna near, well, it's not near Vancouver, but 4 hours east of Vancouver is um, Kelowna. Shout out to Kenny if you ever manage to see this. That's my homie right there. Um, so yeah, uh, kind of both put a deposit down. I mean, I'll have plenty of room sort of the sale of my house, and yeah, maybe do something like that. So I don't want to sit on it
Yeah.
and not have it do anything.
So what would be a reason to keep it? Like I know you've thought of many reasons to sell it, get rid of it because there's a lot of headaches and it'd free up a bunch of stuff. But do you have any reason of why it would be a good idea to keep it instead
I
of
mean,
selling your property?
yeah, I mean, I bought it for 125 10 years ago, and it's now worth around 200. So 75 grand in 10 years. Um,
Pretty good.
pretty good.
And it's pretty passive, right? Like you didn't actually have to go to the property every day or something like that. It just kind
Yeah,
of happened and
yeah,
yeah.
and and that's it. Just the only thing about it is that I mean I can buy a house in Canada and run with that and have like I use an estate agent currently for my tenant, so I don't deal with them directly. Whereas in Germany they do, and it's really weird. Like
Yeah.
you go on a Facebook Marketplace for your landlord, and it's really strange. Um, and it's like, oh, we're going to just like looking for landlords on Facebook. Like, who does this? Um,
Hmm.
so I don't know the tenant. I don't really know the estate agent. Uh, the only people I really speak to in the area is my sister and her husband Danny, their two kids. Um, Shout out Amy, Danny, Jack, and Grace. Definitely not watching it, but you never know, dear. Um, Amy kind of deals with the estate agent on my behalf. Like I'll email them or I'll just say to Amy, "Can you drop in?" And um, so it's a bit of a pain in the ass. Um, if I was in the same country, it might be different, but I'm navigating German taxes. Um, Obviously, it's just it's a bit much. So, but if I could buy a house in Germany, I'd sell it, buy a house here, and live in that. Uh, but
Sure.
that isn't possible. Like apartments here, like get all these
Oh yeah.
Germans live in fucking apartments. But that is
Hmm.
a huge cause of that is when like parents die, Germans inherit their family home, then they're like, well, I don't want to live there if they're an only child, and then they'll go, you know what? They're basically three apartments anyway, and then they make them to sort of put new front doors on each of the apartments, um, and then rent them out. So you know, there isn't any available housing anyway, and if someone's inherited a house they don't want to live in, they just turn it into apartments. So, um, yeah, there's everyone lives in an apartment in Germany, and it's really strange. But
Hmm.
still, try if I wanted to buy an apartment in Würzburg, which is like 500k, uh, it's
Yeah,
insane.
that's pretty pricey, man. And
Yeah,
that's euros, guys. That's not USD, so uh that's big numbers.
yeah, it's crazy. Um, and they
Yeah, my
just they look a
neighbor
bit.
right here, she came over one day. She's a retired lady and she came over. She speaks pretty good English and she was like, "Yeah, my daughter I guess she went to college over in London and she was over there for about three and a half years and now she's back here and she's using her degree that she got and she's working and everything. She has her own car and all that cool stuff." And I was like, oh, because I kept seeing her daughter over every day, and I was like,
Uh,
hey, like you kind of come visit your mom pretty often, huh? She goes, well, yeah, I live right here. I'm like, oh, you live with your mom? Oh, that's cool. And she goes, no, 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 I live right next door. I'm like,
uh,
you bought the house next door. And turns out I didn't know this, but the house that I'm in right now, that I'm renting, um, her and her husband lived here in this house and then sold it to the owner who's current owner, and then they moved directly across the street, and
God
then
damn.
they own like five houses, and all of their family members are in all the houses. So she's pointing them out. She's like, "That's Aunt whoever. That's my cousin. This is my daughter." I'm like, "Got the whole gang here, huh? All right."
Yeah, you've moved into some commune and you just haven't realised it yet. This is Sister Margaret. This is Sister Jennifer. This is Sister fucking I don't know someone else. You're like, she calls everyone sister because this is a commune. Uh, and I hope you survive. To be honest, that'd be really nice. But yeah, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Like
nice. It really does feel like a little community that everyone knows each
uh,
other. I mean, obviously, but it's you could just feel it though. Like everyone's waving at each other here, and
yeah,
everybody knows each other. Oh,
that that
like I had this neighbor, huh?
that is not typical of Germans whatsoever. You've been quite lucky because they're. Um, I'm gonna try. I'm trying to be as diplomatic as possible. Uh, Germans are quite cold. Brits, right?
Oh yeah,
So, me and my girlfriend at the time, Annika, shout out to Annika, um,
we miss you,
still really
Annika.
good,
We
still
really
really
miss
good
you.
friends.
James has changed his ways.
And um, we had a really neat and tidy breakup. We're still really good friends. But girlfriend at a time went back to the UK, and we went into a Tesco. And Tesco is big supermarket. Get some stuff. Go to the till or the cash register, and the lady, the cashier, is just scanning the groceries. Now, when you walk into a Walmart, you get assaulted by people on fucking ecstasy. Morning, sir. How are you, sir? Like, just leave me alone. Stop it. Calm down. It's
Yeah.
7:30, and I just stop it. Um, but the Germans are completely opposite. But Brits, we're kind of in the middle somewhere. So you don't get mobbed when you walk in by someone smiling in your face quite rudely. But you get to the till. She was like, "Oh, morning. How are you?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm all right. How are you?" She's like, "Oh, I'm okay. You know, how's your day going? What you doing? Like, what's the plan?" Just having a conversation. And she was a little older, like mid to late 60s maybe. Just a little chat, get my stuff, leave. And then my girlfriend was like, "Do you know her?" I was like, "No, it's just how it is." And she was like,
Yeah.
because I didn't introduce her, I think she was just a bit confused, like why we were being so friendly. I was like, this is how we do, you know. It's but
Yeah.
Germans like you put some stuff on like the belt, and the lady, the gentleman, the cashier will scan it through as quickly as humanly possible. There's typically just like a little
Oh
ledge to
my God.
collect your stuff, and you
Yeah.
have to like, and then while you're bagging it, they'll tell you how much it is with the expectation that you'll pay there and then, even though you're
Yeah.
like a fifth of the way through of bagging your shit before they've started scanning the next person's stuff. And I'm not over
Yeah.
exaggerating. That's how it is. And you're like, what is wrong? Who hurt you?
Guys,
Uh,
he is telling the truth. Every time I go to the grocery store, it's always like a mini anxiety moment because you have like 20 items in your basket and you go and they start scanning it and then you have like a mere 3 seconds to put all that stuff back into the thing because otherwise everyone's just staring at you like
and,
you're
and,
holding them up.
and like, yeah, they'll just fucking stare at you, man. It's crazy. On a bus or, excuse me.
Oh yeah.
So on a bus or like on a train, if you, uh, if you talk, half the train will go and they'll just stare at you. And it's really strange that they're not, yeah, they're just a bit closed off.
Dude, there's
So
this little donor stand. Yeah, that keep going.
yeah,
Didn't
it's
mean to
like
cut you off.
yeah, no, yeah, they're just a bit closed off. So you've got a decent little neighborhood there. You've done all right.
Yeah, dude, there's this little donor stand and they're like I don't know they might be Turkish, I'm not really sure, but
Oh,
they
yeah,
speak a different language other than German. I don't know what it is.
yeah, they'll be Turkish. I would
But
hazard a guess that
yeah,
they'll be Turkish.
freaking flies over here messing with me. I
All
don't
right,
even know how it got in. Oh, actually I have
my
all the windows cracked upstairs.
my thing saying reconnecting, but it seems to be all right, I suppose.
Yeah. Let me see. Yeah, my internet's good.
Yeah, just I don't know. I just got the
But
reconnecting thing spinning around. Um, I need to go and rock this joint.
okay.
Are
Can you see
you?
me at all?
Yeah, yeah, I can see it. Just like it just says reconnecting with the buffering
Okay.
symbol. But um, yeah,
Okay.
right. Can we pause it there for a minute? I'm gonna
Yeah.
go and
Good.
grab a drink and that. All right.
Uh, it doesn't allow to pause, but we'll
Oh
keep
yeah.
going. Um I
I
will.
mean, you know,
Dude, I'm telling you, you gotta have a kid, man.
I no, absolutely not.
Gotta happen.
No,
You
it
know it's gotta
doesn't.
happen.
It does not need to happen. I'm 36. If I wanted a kid, I'd have had a kid by now.
No, if you wanted a kid, you'd have a kid before you're 45.
Fuck that. So what? You get a 40. So you have a kid at 45, right? At the latest, and then
Hmm.
add 18 years. 55,
Yeah.
63.
Yeah.
No. So would you really want to be dealing with a fucking 16-year-old when you're 60? Do you know what I'm saying? That's a bad idea. I don't
Well,
like
what about
16.
if you got one within the next 4 years before you're
I'm
40?
not, I don't like 16-year-olds now. I'm like,
What
I'm
what if
getting
what if you had a kid before you're 40?
before I was 30. That's not a stupid idea, isn't it?
No, like say you had one at 39.
No, because that would mean having a kid
Go on
in
60,
two
16
years'
years
time,
later.
3 years' time. Yeah, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I am so far removed from the idea of wanting to have a child that it's crazy. I just no, absolutely not. Because I'm, I don't know. Like if I want to go snowboarding in Japan, let's go fucking snowboarding in Japan. Or if I want to spend the entire weekend fucking lying on my back, smoking a joint, listening to
But what about
a,
what about like a little like beyond your life, where it's like, hey, I got all this stuff. I had two, three kids. They grew up and now they want to take it over. It's like having that classic car, and you took care of it for so long, and then your kids saw the passion in it, and when you're gone, they're not gonna just sell it and go party in Mexico with all the money, right? Like they're gonna, you know,
if
hopefully
if
take
my
it and
if
go, you
my
know what, my dad
parents
took care of this, I'm gonna keep it going too.
if my parents gave me worth anything of value when they died, they won't. But I'd sell it. I'm like, oh, here's a classic car that I laboured over for 50 years. Dead, cool. How much can I get for it? Like, I'm not very sentimental either. So the idea of that to me is a bit wild. So I'm,
Oh, well, we could go beyond that, right? Like before,
but
oh,
like I
beyond
wouldn't.
like just having something for old time's sake. But if it's making you money, like if your family left down a couple apartment buildings and everything, and now you're making $10,000 a week, you know?
But like yeah, but I mean, we could like talk hypotheticals all day. But like if it was, I'm not going to get three apartment buildings. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to get um fuck all basically in terms of inheritance, and so I don't plan on building some fucking rental empire to pass down to kids.
Little,
Because
little,
like if I got to when I get to like my 70s, and if I got a bank full of money, I'm enjoying the shit out of it, even if I had kids. So they wouldn't get shit anyway. Like if I've earned it, if I've worked hard for it, guess what? Fucking, you're gonna have to do the same. But no, I get it. I'm the guy that listens to all his favorite albums on vinyl. I get it. Like, like if that's something that you want and that is meaningful to you, then great. But it doesn't mean it's meaningful to everybody.
Yeah.
But I get that someone would want to build something to be able to pass that on to children, like build a familial legacy. Great. I think it's fucking stupid, but I understand why someone would want to do that. And I'm not gonna, give them shit for wanting to have kids and do that anyway.
Right, yeah.
And
Yeah, I
fuck
hear
having
that.
kids, man. God, no. I'm too self-indulgent. Like, I get to the gym
Yeah. I mean, now that
for
I'm gonna have Sophia in August, um, I haven't
beautiful
told
name.
Robin yet,
Be-
but I've been
beautiful name,
planning
by the way.
on going ahead and having another one. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, yeah?
I've been thinking about talking to Robin about having a second one with her,
Yeah.
yeah. And I would prefer to
Well,
have one back to back because I'm not really in the business to have like a kid every 5 years, you know?
save it until after she's given birth, mate, and then ask her. Um, because it'd sound like a great idea now
Yeah, oh,
before
yeah,
going for labor, and if it goes perfectly, then fucking more power to you. Um, the idea of having kids for me though is fucking horrible.
yeah.
I hate that. I am too self-indulgent. Like I get to the gym 4 days a week. Um, I like to just fucking lounge around. I like to play Call of Duty. I like to, chill with Barbara, watch a film. Like, and if I had a kid, it'd annoy me that I couldn't do that as much as I'd want to a point where, like, I'm not having kids because I'm so selfish and and also selfless, knowing that a kid doesn't have to go fucking through me just kind of regretting not having that fucking personal time, personal space. So, it is what it is. But like
Sure. Yeah.
I'm
All that
youngest.
goes out the window once you have a kid, yeah.
Mm, I'm youngest of four, and at least two of us have ADHD. Um, like that's how I got my adult ADHD diagnosis.
No.
Yeah, I got So when I first started dating Barbara, she's a um psychiatrist. Do not say psychologist. Oh my God, the drama. And she's got her specializations in child psychiatry and adult psychiatry. And we were dating for a little while. She was like, "Have you ever been tested for ADHD?" I'm like, they're just like tapping the table, like my legs go in. I'm just like, no. And she was like, "I'll bring you the paperwork." And I literally jumped the queue by at least a year um, of getting the assessment done. The German mental health services are like rammed apparently, which is a shame. Um, so I get the paperwork, fill it out, and she gives it to a colleague to do a not informal, an impartial review of the paperwork that I'd filled out. Like, it's got a bunch of questions, um, and there's a
Yeah, it's
there's a
just like a diagnostic, like a
yeah,
initial thing. Yeah.
but there's a separate form in there for an adult to write an assessment on their child in case it's a child that's come in for an assessment. So I thought it'd be funny to send pictures of the questions with the translations to my mum and get her to do an ADHD assessment on me as a kid. Handed all of that in to Barbara. She gave it to her colleague, and it came back like I'm off the like I have high levels of attention deficit and hyperactivity. And my sister, one of my sisters, is even worse than I was as a kid, still is now. Um, so very hyperactive. And yeah, so I got my ADHD diagnosis. Um, and I can only imagine how much of a fucking nightmare we would have been. Four of us, uh, like, and at least two of them being like ADHD, like fucking on full. And no, do you know what I'm saying? I couldn't do it. This to
Wow.
Bar I said this to Barbara literally the other day. Um, this is lagging a little bit. Can you like connect two recordings together? Because for some reason mine is like you're lagging a bit. So I don't, and it's I've got like reconnecting on my screen, so I don't know. Like just before we get into like back into it
Yeah,
formally, um, like well I'll just get this like little
yeah.
fucking thing that I
So
said to
it
Barbara
shows
out loud.
here. Yeah, it shows here I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm
I
trying
don't
to
know.
see how is your connection right now? Does it show like a bunch of bars for yours? Because mine
Yeah, yeah,
shows
no,
a bunch.
mine.
It shows
Yeah, no,
I'm
mine's
good.
good. I don't know if it's like just the app. I don't know. It says it's reconnecting, but I can see you. You can see me. If I seem alright to you,
Yeah,
you're just a bit
'cause you're
laggy.
lagging pretty good.
Am I? I
Yeah,
shouldn't be.
yours is pretty solid on lagging. So right now I'm getting about 50 megabytes a second. I'm pretty good.
Yeah, let me. A German internet is. Be glad that you live near a major city because the internet is awful. Um, so Wi-Fi. I'm gonna run a quick speed test on my phone. Yeah, but it's I'm getting like 50 meg. So it's not. I don't know. It might be the app. I'll like before we get back into it. I'll just close the app and then rejoin, I suppose, and hopefully that fixes it. But I said this to Barbara the other day. I said we were driving somewhere, and I said like one of the reasons that I don't want to have children is because I remember seeing uh, a disabled child, and might have been 8, 9 years old maybe, um, and like, couldn't walk properly. Had to wear this like foam padded helmet, um, and it was just like I can imagine the insane amount of time that the parents need to ensure that that child has the best possible life, which any parent should do anyway. But when you've got a child with significant special needs, you know, that absolutely strips all of your free time away. And yeah, if I had a child, like I wouldn't be able to be as strong uh, as these people are to care for their child in the way that they do. Um, Tons of respect for that. That is an incredible achievement because we all have bad days, um, but couldn't do it, and I'm cool with it. Like, so
Yeah.
like any
Yeah, I
removal
just
of
know I
like,
want to have a couple kids.
oh man, and I get it. Like, um, one of my best friends, Jace, um, he so I joined the army because where I'm from, there's very little prospects. I didn't do all that well in school, and it turns out years later I have ADHD. And where I'm from, if you're just a hyperactive boy, you're just a boy. That's just what boys are like. Um, Everybody is working class, lower working class. It's a tourism industry that died in the 90s. Um, so there's not much going on up there apart from low paying, low skill jobs, and that's about it. Or like a lot of people are on social benefits and unemployment because there just aren't enough opportunities for the population of North Wales. It really is a tragedy. Um, so join the army because I've got fuck all else going for me. Um, my mate Jace is not really doing much at all. Um, he gets his girlfriend pregnant, and I was in Kenya at the time actually on exercise, and I bought like a local like cell phone, and I was like calling people, just catching up, and I called my mate Jace, and he's like, "Kay's pregnant," and I'm like, "You're 20." I congratulated him. I thought, yeah, but we're only fucking 20, 21, and no one's really doing shit with their lives. Um, and so him and his girlfriend ended up moving in with his parents. Can't remember their names. Great couple though. Um, yeah. So then moving into his parents' house when the kid's born. Um, Jace, like he was like delivering fast food from a local Chinese restaurant in his little Skoda, this piece of shit car. And he'll agree it was a piece of shit car. And once we were driving around in it, and I had a McFlurry from McDonald's, and we're driving past an abandoned house. I wound the window down with like the lever thing. Um, I went to throw the McFlurry out of the car, but ended up not leaving the car and like filled the entire car with ice cream because it was still full. And that upset him because it was the middle of the summer and now his car's full of ice cream. Um, so a piece of shit car, and he was delivering uh, meals from the local Chinese restaurant, and it was a bit of a shit one as well. So not really doing much. Nah, and then I didn't see him for like 3 years maybe. And then I ended up like messaging him, like fucking, sometimes it happens, like you don't speak to a mate for a few years. Um, and I was like, let me come over. I haven't seen you in a while. So I drove when I was home on leave, drove up to go and see him, and he pulled up to his the house he was renting with his missus and kid, uh, Jace, and kid Dante, um, and that's it, missus. So they're renting, but it's a half decent place. He pulls up in a I don't know if you have Skodas in the US, but he pulls up in a Skoda Octavia VRS, Um,
No.
these are proper cars, by the way, not fucking Mustangs. Why would you name a car after a fucking horse? Um, so decent car, and it was a company car, and I'm like, hang on, what happened to you? Um, and this ties back into like the houses, actually, a comment I made earlier, and I was like, what happened to you? And he was telling me that he did this level five, in something. So level five is equivalent to the first 2 years of a 3-year degree in university. Um, so it's a diploma, I think, maybe. Don't know. Anyway, so he'd earned that level of qualification and was now, uh, I can never remember what it is. It's something to do with engineering, I think. Um, and now he's in a management position with this diploma that he's got as an associate's degree, so one under a bachelor's. Um, so Jace, the guy who was, you know, living in his parents' house with his missus and newborn kid, delivering fucking Chinese food. A few years later, he's got this degree. He's got a great job, a nice company car, renting in, a nice two sort of story house. And I was like, I saw that Jace had done it, and I thought I think I might be able to do that. In the same way, like if a soldier buys a house while they're still serving, it has that knock-on effect of one of the other lads going, "Oh, Nobed bought a house. Um, I could probably buy a house if he could do it." And that's not. I didn't think that of Jason. Like I was obviously quite rightly impressed with what he'd achieved, and I worked hard and managed to do the same thing. Um, but yeah, so where I'm from, people have got to fucking scrape themselves out of the barrel anyway. So having was this a kids thing again? I can't remember. That weed sent me on a rant. Yeah, sorry. So, um, I don't know what point was I trying to make.
Can you hear me?
Uh, yeah, let me close this app and then I'll come back on and then we'll just get back into it.